Hi, hi, good morning, good afternoon, whatever it is on your side. And welcome to this stream. I haven't made streams for quite a long time. And today we are going to talk about how you can make a winning CV. What it takes to make a CV that will get you a job interview. So I have prepared a small presentation. Let's jump into that. So let's start with the agenda. Today's session is going to be structured essentially in two parts. First part would be a presentation where we will explore what it is CV and how essentially CV as a form of a written communication and how CVs are viewed by the receiving party here, which may be employer, recruiter, or usually both. And we will explore tips to making a good CV, general tips which will work for everyone, and tips that will work for fresher starters, young professionals who don't have necessarily good enough or long enough experience, and for people with experience. Now, the other thing is that there will be also one small, let's say, secret sauce shared, something that not everyone yet aware of, but something which can be a difference between getting and not getting a job. And after the presentation part, I will review CVs kindly provided by my subscribers, and immediately I see that on my screen my face is covered by the logo, which is slightly annoying. Let me take my face and just put it into a different place. Yeah, should be alright. Sorry about that. Things like that, they do happen. Okay, so a short plug. If, for example, you're not a candidate and you are the employer or recruiter and you have a job opening, I do have contacts of all the people who provided the CV for review part. So if you see someone interesting, someone you would like to talk to, you can always direct message me and I will share those details with you. And a little bit of commercial plug. I have a Patreon, and my patrons, they always get an access to the presentation, to this and other streams, and also mind maps for my videos. So if it's something that you would like to have, you can just consider this. And again, I see that my face is getting in the way. That's annoying. Okay, that should be fine. All right. Okay, so let's get into this. Curriculum vitae, resume, CV is a form of communication. It is not only a form of communication, it's a form of synchronous and written communication. And it's very important to remember that because otherwise you can end up in a situation where you don't communicate efficiently. And it's so important that I even prepared a model of this communication. So how the communication looks like, there is a receiver party, which is employer usually, and there is sending party, right? Well, not exactly. The party who starts the communication is actually an employer. They have some kind of need, in technical terms, they have a request, a job opening. And they send this request to the job market or sometimes to you directly. And a candidate looks at the job opening and replies with the curriculum vitae plus cover letter. Now, what is very important here? Always reply to what employer needs. That's a little bit tricky because sometimes they are not very good at communicating what they need. But at the very least, you should read what is job opening is about, what are the keywords of the job opening, what are the responsibilities, and try to tailor your CV to this job opening. And also, you can make yourself and everyone a favor if you would not just reply to any vacancy out there. So if you think that you are not a good fit for this particular opening, just don't reply. And if you feel that you're a good fit, you need to make sure that it is clear from your CV that your candidacy is a right response to the employer need. And by tailoring your CV and cover letter, you increasing your chances significantly. I will touch this how you want to tailor this a little bit later, but for now just remember to tailor your CV, because on this, by just briefly looking at your CV, you will either get an interview or not. There is another model which is not impossible, but I would say so rare that you probably don't need to remember about that, is when an employer doesn't have an opening and instead you just send a CV out of the blue, an employer responds to you. And as you immediately see, that is a weaker model of communication, because employer either doesn't need a worker or they haven't expressed what kind of worker they need. And therefore, your chances to responding to the need of the employer are way smaller. So I would say if you out there, if you're in the job market trying to get job as soon as possible, concentrate on the employers which express the need, employers which are looking for a candidate, and make sure that you are the candidate they are looking for. Now, the recruiter's perspective on this is a little bit interesting. I had to guess here because I'm not a recruiter myself, but I hope that my guess is reasonable. I will ask recruiters from my network to have a look at this session, and probably they will come up with some comments, either confirming or not confirming what's going on there. But what I think happening on the recruiter side is that they experiencing a time pressure really, because there are lots of CVs which are not relevant, and they need to provide usually in a agreed time frame a CV which is good enough to show an employer. And the other thing is that recruiters are not necessarily and not usually very big experts in a technical sort of things. For example, if you're talking about the opening in data scientist role, right? Recruiters might not actually be very good with statistics and other stuff that is important for data science, which I'm not necessarily good at myself. And what it means that some mind-blowing but very techy details, which might be very helpful on other occasion, are not necessarily going to help a recruiter to understand that this candidate is good enough for this vacancy. So you might want to try to explain the same thing, but in a simpler words. So otherwise, it might be just a white noise for the recruiter. And why it is important to remember that? It's because recruiting agency, they are working as a marketing funnel. So they're getting lots of CVs, many of which are irrelevant. And they are responding with a very small amount of CVs to the employer, to the person who's actually going to hire you. And if they filter you, and they usually can afford filtering because they have quite a lot, probably hundreds of thousands of CVs to filter out, they will. So recruiters are more interested in providing a fewer amount of more relevant candidate rather than other way around, because that's how they make money. Employer perspective is same yet different. First is, again, employer does have a time pressure, and this time pressure is both explained by quite a big amount of relevant CVs getting out there and deadlines. The thing is that the person who is looking at your CV, not necessarily doing this full time, Instead, they may be doing some other work, some other day-to-day activities, and they may have other deadlines, other projects really burning. And now they have to spend some time and choose who should be selected for the interview. So it creates a very real incentive to limit the amount of time you spend on watching the CV. Some research would say that employers would spend around 10 seconds on every CV. I think it's a little bit too extreme, but I wouldn't say that if we assume that employers just spend probably not more than 30 seconds looking at your CV, that would be real. And that's a very important thing to remember, because again, if you're coming up with a like 5 pages into CV, it doesn't necessarily going to be read at all. Well, in some companies, they actually ask you for like 5 pages, the most detailed CV ever. But the rule of thumb, I would say 1-2 pages is more than enough. And another thing which I know firsthand is CVs which are tailored by agencies or by not very good recruitment agencies, let's say, which do whatever they can to get you an interview. And this strategy is not very stupid, to be honest with you. Its strategy is actually quite smart in some extent. It's a bad strategy, but smart. The thing is when you invited even irrelevant candidate to the interview, the chances that this candidate is going to be accepted are getting higher. And the later the candidate, even if it's a relevant candidate, in the interviewing stage, the lower the chances that this candidate is going to be refused. Well, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's the case in every company, right? But as a rule of thumb, in most of the companies, it is the case, and there are lots of psychological and organizational reasons for that. Now, that's the secret sauce. Do not forget that it is 2022. There are lots of irrelevant CVs out there. And we do use automated filtering quite a lot. What it means for you? It means that lots of things that work well excuse me, with a human are not going to work well with the automated filtering, or not as well as you would like it. So for example, if you use some bars to demonstrate your language proficiency, or you use big amount of graphics, it actually can be not very good for your CV. The biggest problem here is that you don't usually know which companies are using automated filtering and which don't. And the size of the company is not always an only factor, but yeah, it's something to be aware of. Automated filtering is getting more and more prominent, and it will be more prominent tomorrow. So you need to be aware of that, and you need to it is crazy thing, but it is true. You need to adapt for machines so they can process your CV the way you want it. So let's go to the CV tips. So taking all this into account, how we can make a winning CV. Be concise, really. 1-2 pages is your best shot. 5 pages, even 3 pages is a little bit too much. I personally wouldn't probably look through more than 2 pages. And knowing that we spend a limited amount of time on every CV, start with the most important. Start with the biggest and what makes you a great candidate for this opening. So don't delay important details, hoping that you will explore them later. Start with what is most important. And what might be important here, I don't know, that would depend on the job vacancy, really. But looking at the job vacancy, try to think what would be the most important for this particular opening, how you can demonstrate that you are a perfect candidate. And avoid unnecessary design for many reasons. One of the reasons is that, yes, automated filtering is there, Another reason is that in some companies, people would try to print your CV, and if this CV using lots of coloring, it might be either unreadable because of the printer or unreadable because of the reader, because some people are colorblind and some people mix blue and green and other colors. So avoid this. Black and white is usually best shot. And don't forget to, again, recruiter perspective and automated filtering. How both recruiter and automated filtering are choosing your CV. They are looking for right keywords. And those keywords almost always are presented in the job spec. So by reading the job spec, look for the keywords. So for example, if there is Java, Spring, REST API, MongoDB in the job spec, make sure that you have this in your CV. And even if you have not enough experience with this, make sure that it is there, even if it's a month or I don't know, training, because you want to demonstrate that you are a right fit. And you not only right fit, you're better than other people in this big file of CVs. And if you have to create any DAP or provide any vague information, make sure that this DAP will improve your case, that it will be interpreted to your benefit rather than the other way around. That's, well, an interesting thing, and I hope that we will be able to demonstrate at least some of these points on the CVs that we are looking at. I don't know because I haven't seen them yet. But yeah, those are tips that I would say should be working for like most cases. Now, if you're a fresh starter, I would really recommend investing into portfolio. And if you have some job experience, if it's not relevant job experience, or if you have a degree, diploma, even if it's not relevant, I would still recommend showing this because just imagine I'm looking at the CV and one person did not do any job at all, or at least the CV creates a doubt that because there is no work experience that this person haven't worked everywhere, right? And I look at the very same CV and I'm seeing that this person did some volunteering job and also had some experience doing something, and also for whatever reason has completed a bachelor degree in arts. Which one will be looking better for me? I think that the one with some experience and a degree which is not relevant to my opening is still better than a CV without any job experience and without any degree. So that's actually an example of doubts which can be interpreted either to your benefit or to your demise. And show, don't tell. So for example, and that's where a portfolio can be very handy, if you can show the code that you've written in Java, instead of saying Java basic knowledge or whatever it is, you can send, well, by the way, that's the Java library I wrote, check this out. That usually works very well with the interviewers because, again, when I'm preparing for the interview, if I can have a look at the code that you had written, because the interview is very short period of time, I need to get as much information as I can in this amount of time. And if I can get some information offline and I can get lots of information from your portfolio, I will do this, and it will usually benefit your candidacy. Even if it's a rubbish portfolio, the fact that you spend some time and provided this will usually be better than no portfolio at all. And for experienced candidates, well, experienced candidates usually know better than I how to find a good job, but there's something which I would like to mention anyway, is that if you can demonstrate your achievements, like when you experience candidate, it's not a very big deal if you know Java well, or if you know any technology well, or big amount of technologies. What is cool though, is that if you can demonstrate that you achieved something For example, uh, let's take my experience and one the achievement that I made like 5 years ago, something. I can say that I'm good at regression testing, but I also can say that I was able to shorten regression test cycle without losing quality by 50%. Those are both true. Which one will be looking better in my CV? I believe the 50% case will be looking better. So if you can demonstrate your achievements on every role, that can be very helpful. And the other thing which is important for experienced candidates is the idea of a T-shaped profile where you specialize in something, but you also try to broaden your knowledge. So for example, again, taking myself as an example, I was doing most of test automation at the time, but I also wanted to know more about management. So I was mentoring people and I've also given some lessons on testing of something else. And that demonstrates my desire to also actually two things here. First, to take additional responsibility. And second, that I can actually learn a little bit more than my specialty here. And that might be very important if you're an experienced person. All right, so that was it for the presentation. And now we're going to jump into the CV reviews. The important disclaimer here is that I have asked all the people who provided CV for me if they're okay with me showing their CVs. So whatever is in the CV, they agreed for this to be shown. So if there is personal data, they agreed for this to be shown. So there is nothing fishy is going on there. Okay, we got 5 CVs for today. And well, in no particular order, I will just open one by one. I haven't seen them, so I have no idea what's going on there. So if there's some obscenity, sorry about that. Okay, I will increase font and hopefully it will be more readable. Okay, that's SCV for front developer from Dima S. Yeah, well, I'm just gonna read this as is and say what I'm thinking. First thing that I'm thinking is that this green thing here is taking a lot on the page. This could have been used better. So my first suggestion is just delete this header or make it one-liner. Dima, then front-end developer on the same line, and then the contact details. I'm not sure if location is relevant, but your work authorization might be. So you can, for example, write instead of location, work authorization, and list of countries where you're authorized to work. But I mean, regarding the location and work authorization, it doesn't really matter. That's all right. Okay, so skills. And that's a very good demonstration of starting with the beginning things. Start with the most important things. So the first thing that we see here is HTML5. Well, I don't know, maybe for a particular job opening that's gonna work, but I would say React, TypeScript are more important and rarer than HTML5. So I would put them probably upper. Again, you need to remember that not every interviewer and not every employer will read through this. Regarding the design here, there is actually a very good combination of design and text. So I think that this CV will be processed by automatic machine learning system quite well. So that's fine. And we start with the keywords, which is good. Those keywords are actually quite good. So that's a very good approach to start here. Now, what I really like about this CV is that it is using the place wisely. It's just one pager. And still you have education, you have a small about me section, which is actually cover letter. We have a portfolio, and we have some working experience. We have something which is not helpful here, like English C1. Why it's not helpful? Well, it's because, well, you expected to speak English if you're providing an English speaking CV in English. So it's kind of, well, if it's C1, that's fine, but some people might not know what C1 is. So I would say probably something more understandable by people who are not learning foreign languages. For example, English professional proficiency, something like that. That should be okay. Right, so I like development interest and useful application with React, clean code admirer. In my free time, I love to read books and play with my two cats. Well, everything good. Probably the last sentence is not really going to help you to get an interview. But as a person, I like you. I like cats myself. So I would say that's even though it's a for topic, it's still might be useful of topic. We see education, and even though I'm assuming it is a fresh starter, a very good thing, as we mentioned, that CV mentions the degree, which is not, let's say, a specialized degree in front-end development. But on the other hand, for example, if I'm looking for a person who is going to work in my company on some project related to law or legal, this can actually be a very good information for me, because, well, it's 6 years of learning some legal stuff. That may be quite helpful, especially when we have GDPR and other legislation, which is very important in IT. Let's see through the experience. Okay, we see self-employed here, and we see list of the achievements, let's say, independently developed over 10 projects, complexity, implemented TypeScript support for React. Okay, so what I see here, that's a little bit scary. The thing is, when you say self-employed, it usually means that you're earning money. But what I see here looks like a list of your hobby activities, which is not bad. That's not bad at all. But it's something which I would not put into self-employed. Maybe volunteering, if you contributed this to open source, but not self-employed. And that's something that's actually what we're seeing here is a portfolio. I would probably provide a link on the GitHub for every point I can provide a link to. That could improve this CV. But from what I see from this CV is a fresh starter with quite a lot of independent activities, hobby projects completed. But this fresh starter does not have a work experience. That's where I would probably add some work experience, even if it's irrelevant work experience. And all this self-employed stuff, I would just say hobby activities or something. Well, hobby doesn't sound good. If I come up with a smart way to name this, I will tell you. Okay, let's look at another CV. Mr. Name, surname. Well, that's starts good. So we don't have any. Excuse me. We don't do unnecessary design here. We have professional summary. Okay, engineer with 4 years experience. Okay, that's good. Software and web application, Scrum methodology. Some keywords I see here. That's also nice. Proficient in quality assurance of ERP systems. FinTech and web application with systematic. Okay. Regarding this professional summary, I would probably not put this into professional summary. Instead, because it's essentially given a summary of your work experience, I would probably try to show the same thing in the work experience section. Now, I'm saying probably here because I'm not sure. Depending on the job spec, maybe that's a very good way to respond for the need that the employer has. So, for example, if I'm an employer, I'm looking for reasonably experienced QA engineer and I have an ERP system, that might be a very good way to present this. But otherwise, I'm not sure. So what we got with education, I would recommend putting education at the end of the CV. Because education is important, especially for the machine processing, but not as important as this, which is skills and tools. Let's see what we have here. We have Java IntelliJ IDEA. Okay. First of all, that's good that we have key skills. Those are keywords that I mentioned more than one, right? One thing which is kind of striking me is that when you put key skills, you want to put skills which are to some extent unique. An IntelliJ IDEA doesn't sound like a unique skill for me. And probably Jira is not. It's like if you put Firefox when you're trying to explain that you're good at computer anything, right? Probably would not waste a CV space on this. On the other hand, we see source 3 doctors. Okay, this list is too long. What I would do is to read the job spec and delete everything which I think is not relevant for this job spec. Because this is just too long. I'm already bored. And now we have a work experience. Okay, we have a long list of responsibilities and we have achievements. Good. I like the achievements. Created automated API tests that made the testing process smoother and faster. What would be important here is I probably would put this the other way around. Achievements first, responsibility next. And I would probably add some metrics. So smoother and faster. Faster by what degree? 5%, 50%. I would probably put this. And after I joined the team, the regression testing has been decreased from 5 years. Okay, combine this into one thing and say decreased testing time by 40% approximately. Oh, actually, exactly 40%. And I did this using API tests and test process improvements. So try to show the same information in a shorter sentence, which is not related to your work experience at all, unfortunately. But it is related to the fact that interviewers, they don't have enough time to read this. Okay, Test New Function earnestly provided a demo of it. I wouldn't put this as an achievement. It just looks like a business as usual. Otherwise, you need to frame it someone differently. And it doesn't look like an achievement. I would probably delete this. It's rather weak point. Created in Java core classes applied. This is not an achievement as well. So if you want to show that you apply to Java knowledge, make sure that going back to your automated API tests, the add here written in Java or Java based, and you can have one achievement, but it is a very strong achievement. Further, dig bug verification, the bug has been reopened. Okay, just for the sake of time, I'll probably not read everything here, but I would say apply the same logic. Delete things which are not helping your case significantly, like C1 in English. Instead, what you can write instead of C1 in English, you can write that you was acting as a primary point of contact for offshore customer or something like that. Okay, show, don't tell. You demonstrate that you don't have a C1 in English, but you're proficient in English, and people who need a person who are very good at English can rely on you. And the proof of that is that you was the single point of contact for the whole team with a very important person somewhere offshore. So something like this. Yeah, I would say shorten this probably. It should be possible to shorten this to 1-2 pages, and then apply the suggestions that I made, and let's make another round at some other point. Another CVE. Okay, that was fun. A person has intended to cover the details, but they appeared for a second. I'm sorry. I didn't do this on purpose. I don't know why it happened. When I publish the stream, I will delete this part. So it will not going to be open for too long. Okay, start with summary. I'm qualified QA automation engineer from some building of structured programs. I'm familiar with modern technology. I'm kind of having a mixed feeling here. This summary is not, what I would say, is not appealing to me. I don't feel that I'm reading this summary that I'm having a unique person here. Like, there are lots of qualified QA automation engineers, and how do I know that you're qualified? If you have a look at the previous CV, that was a little bit more appealing. So I would actually either consider deleting this summary altogether or rewriting it, tailoring it for a particular job that you're applying to. We have a link to portfolio, which is nice, and also very good explanation of show, don't tell. I would probably put portfolio before technical skills. Okay, that happened by mistake. So I would probably put technical skills above the portfolio. I like the way technical skills are structured, Python and stuff related to Python, but probably Bash is not related to Python. JavaScript, TypeScript, Playwright, Docker. Oh, okay, here's the thing. I'm looking at the technical skills and I already have an idea how we can present it in summary. Because looking at this, I see that you're most likely experienced both in front and back-end technologies. And that is unique. Not everyone has this experience, and that's something that you can write in summary. Jira Confluence, I would probably delete this because even if you don't have experience in Jira Confluence, it probably wouldn't take you more than a day to get this experience. Jenkins, GitLab, GitHub Actions. You can improve significantly this line by adding a magic word, DevOps. Lots of people are looking for this word. And you're doing something related to this, but you're not saying this. That's a missed opportunity. MySQL, Postgres, Redis, add a word database here. Because it's again a keyword which might be looked for. Linux, Unix, Bash should go here. Then PyTest, unit test, robot framework, behave, blah, blah, blah. Write unit test frameworks, and that will significantly improve this line essentially here. Okay, so my suggestion, either improve or delete summary, put technical skills above, portfolio below. Now we are jumping to the work experience, which is 1, 2. Yeah, well, that's very dangerous. So check this out. I'm a qualified command automation engineer, and you have around 6 months of experience. Some people can think that you're trying to deceive because, like, for them, 6 months might not be a qualified. So what I would say, let's see, those are responsibilities. Maintain the improved quality of your API test by implementing. Okay, that's cool. Instead, I would probably write it in a somewhat different way, like Implemented multi-threaded async modes to sync the code that's fast catching bugs. I'm trying to think how I would probably reframe this. Yeah, the thing is, there's a good information in this paragraph, but it's very difficult to read, especially for people who are probably not native, and maybe for natives as well. So we'll probably break this into three different points. Responsibilities: maintaining and improving quality of UI API tests. Okay. Implemented multi-threading async modes, that's unique. So I would probably put it above because it sounds cool. That led to fast catching bugs and probably didn't bring it to production that leads to money saving. Well, that's obvious. Just delete this. Don't waste your CV on obvious things. Focused on implementing modern architecture to include modern technologies to our products. Well, that's just a white noise. Try to find a way to explain this in a form of achievement. Like, it's cool that you focused on implementing modern architecture, but what was achieved by this? Because an employer has some kind of need. What kind of need you're going to fix by this? Focus on this. Then adjusted communication method to Jenkins would allow to run tests by whom not enough qualified to use Jenkins directly. What I see here is that probably this also can be simplified a lot. Test by whom not in, the structure of the application. Could it be that the CV was done by Google Translate? It doesn't sound natural to me. And if it doesn't sound natural to me, there are chances that it's not going to sound natural for the person who's reviewing your CV. That's not good. So I would probably try to break this into samples and smaller. But that's a good achievement. What you did, you provided a capability for people who are not qualified for whatever reason to use Jenkins directly to run particular tests. So you need to think how you can write this in a better way, because this is cool. But it took me around a minute to understand why it's cool, and you want to avoid that. Now, create automation engineer, create and support pipelines in GitHub Actions, build on. Yeah, well, that's just a list of activities, which is not bad. That's all right. So probably my executive summary for this CV. Try to avoid long sentences. Avoid Google Script, especially of long sentences. And avoid writing a thing which doesn't add value. What I see here is a relatively fresh junior QA automation engineer. I might be wrong because I can look at the portfolio later, and portfolio will be great. By the way, let's just have a look at the portfolio. I'll just click this and see what's going to happen. Oh, that's cool. What I see here is that it is, first of all, it is very well structured. I like that. Really like that. That's a show by not tell. That's really cool. Let's click a couple of things. I can see async working here. Okay, that's nice. Command line interface with commented out code. That's not cool. Excel parser. Well, looking at this, I can definitely say that this person can write code, which is cool. Okay. Going back to the CV. So yeah, the portfolio looks at least all right, maybe good, and good that it's structured, really nice. So I would say that's a very, after fixing some issues here, this CV might be a very good CV for a junior QA engineer. Okay. Um, Second to last interview. Objective, QA engineer. That's okay. Summary of 12 years of experience in information technologies, including quality assurance over 3 years of web. I'm not sure about this summary again. Probably the previous advice still apply. We don't see skills. Okay, skills are below. Let's jump into the professional experience. Description, software approval from advanced modeling. Well, that's interesting. That's something that we haven't seen yet, but that's interesting because it's explaining what this project is about, which might be important if I'm looking for a person with experience in particular business domain, I would say. And technologies and role. But actually, that's not bad. It's not something that I was recommending, but it still looks nice, I would say. You explaining what this project was about, you explaining technologies that you used, and your role. If you can add one achievement here, just one, it can be a killer way to present your experience. I really like that. When it gets to this long paragraph, I would probably break this into bullet points, but otherwise, I really like that. Now, when you go to the help desk part, because you're not applying for a help desk role, I would probably avoid adding details. I'm not going to read your details about help desk activities because most likely they are not relevant to the role that I'm advertising to. So, yeah, I would probably leave this experience, but don't add the details for this experience because it's not adding value. It's good that you had this experience, though. Okay, IT service management software, QA tools, PowerShell. Okay, good that we have skills. But what I think is you probably need to add some skills there in order to stay competitive. At least one programming language would be nice. There is absolutely no issues with the way it is presented. It's presented as actually quite nice. Sections, keyword, all to the point. That's nice. The way you are providing languages is also great. Native, fluent, beginner, just to a point. But knowing what's happening to the job market now, I would probably suggest it to add some skills there. Okay, let's go to the final, I think, yeah, final interview of today. And this person was okay with me showing their contact details. So, okay. Programmer C++, junior programmer SQL. Hard skills. Okay. Applying the previous advice. Don't add information which does not add value. Use tools of MS SQL. Use tools of MySQL. Just MS SQL, MySQL, PostgreSQL, MS Access. Delete use tools of completely. Used in the job, delete this. Fox Pro, if you want to clarify that you didn't use something for long enough, you can just say like basic proficiency or something, but probably you don't need this. Just add things that you would say are among your skills. MS SQL, MySQL, good. Just delete them. And then use tools of CLR, CLI. I don't know what it is, so I wouldn't comment. SVM, maybe that's important library, and it might be important for C++, I don't know. But I would probably delete using and just add SFML library that will be delivering the same information but probably in less time. Okay, so what we have, job experience here, team lead. Okay, so that's one thing. There is a typo. Typos are not good. Team lead is written slightly different. Okay, so design with modern applications with design PHP service application with design in Python. Well, that's just a simple explanation. So I see that you worked as a programmer, which is probably what you was trying to say here. But what I don't see is how you was doing team leading activities. I just don't know. Don't see this. Let's see. Maybe I can see this in achievements. Web-oriented application designed. Well, okay. I would not say those achievements. It's just what is achievement? Achievement is where you did something more than it was expected from your role, and that makes you a good candidate, a winning candidate. What I see here is just you're doing your job all right, and that is not going to help you. Okay, then what we see here, database developer, just a regular description of database developer. And actually, if you don't have achievements in a particular role, it's okay. You don't have to excel at every role. You should excel at some, ideally in the most recent. But if you don't have achievements in one role, that's okay. Then, okay, designing application, designing, okay, that's right. Programmer. Yeah, that's where I would say create doubts that work into your benefit. I can improve this CV by deleting everything here. You will work as a programmer at the Soup Clinic #1. That sounds cool, but when you go into the details, I see it wasn't a programmer work. You might have a programmer role in your job description, but it's not a programming activities. So just delete this, and it's significantly going to improve your CV immediately. Now, what are the achievements here? Participated in development. Yeah, just delete this as well. It's not a winning achievement. That's a good way. Now we're going to education. What would be nice? It's not education. It's a professor of computer science. Well, that is cool. It shows that you actually know the stuff. You should be quite good at computer science. And those are achievements. Those are cool. Because believe me or not all the companies are looking for people who can program. Some companies are looking for people who can teach programming. And that is cool. Now going to the education. What is I see that you graduated. What I don't see is the level. Either you a master degree, bachelor degree, PhD, you want to add this level. Then courses and training, that's all right. Probably some formatting. And now about myself. Okay, I see that you did a PhD thesis. I mean, delete this everything what you have here, and probably add that your PhD, that you taught lots of students, and those students were winning on the lots of competition. I mean, that's cool. That's cool. That's way more cool than other stuff that which is written here. All right. Okay. So that was it for the CVs. Let me just go back to this shot with my face and answer the questions if we have some questions. Well, I really hope that you enjoyed this. I haven't made streams for quite in a while, and actually I quite enjoy doing this. I do hope that we can improve your CVs significantly by this advice. And if you want to participate in other streams, well, just let's do another stream in a month or so. Let's see what are the questions. Okay, we got some, which is unusual. Can you please clarify if we should specify my achievement in CV? I heard that this is more appropriate to do in a cover letter. I do specify my role-specific achievements in CV. On the other hand, if you provide a cover letter, you might also probably elaborate those achievements in more details in cover letter. I know that there are some companies which are requiring for you to provide a cover letter. On the other hand, I know that some companies would just ignore this, so there is no guarantee that your cover letter will be read. It can be read, but there is no guarantee for that. Okay. So what else? The code was commented because requirements for changing to use from CLI utility. So I could not decide how to let people use CLI and service at the same time. So it's hard. Yeah, I mean, when you do something in GitHub, there is absolutely nothing wrong in deleting the code because you can restore the code if it's necessary. So instead of commenting out, just delete this. Okay, I also would like to ask, please, if I did test and encountered users at the same position. I worked there for 6 years, including 5 of testing. Can I only test and responsibilities? I would say that's again the doubt that you want to create and which will benefit you, but you don't want to be deceiving here. So I would probably mention that you were doing both activities at the same time, but explore more testing activities. Focus more on those. So I hope that helps. If I was a lecturer of test from a month, should I report in my CV, please? An experience section. I'm not sure. That depends on the job. If the job asks you for this kind of experience or this kind of experience would benefit for a particular job you're applying to, I would say yes. Otherwise, I would probably say no because it doesn't add much of a value unless it's something I'm specifically looking for. I hope that helps. Okay, so yeah, that was 1 hour stream. Thank you very much for joining. And hit this like button if this stream was useful for you. And consider sharing and subscribing and all these sort of things.